Hello, everybody. Long time no see. I'm married now. I'm going to make a video about the first 4 months of my marriage and just kind of, without getting into too many specifics, just for anybody who might be curious, these are just my general thoughts on what it's been like for me, not only being married for 4 months, but just what it's like in being in a long distance relationship. The first month was extremely difficult, but extremely fun. It was very difficult in the sense that I think it definitely took us a while to get used to everything, you know? The whole experience was, so new to us, and our wedding was an entirely new experience. Both of us, we had never been married before. We were both single, so we, um, it was so nice to be able to celebrate that. I'll put some pictures up on here so some people can see what our wedding looked like. And yeah, we had a great time. We got to go to Boracay. We got to do a lot of really fun things, but it was also difficult in the sense that we have known each other and are so used to each other at a distance that when we finally were sharing the same space, it was difficult in the beginning because we both have our routines, we both have our ways of doing things. I'm more of a night person, she's more of a morning person. I'm used to colder weather, she's used to warmer weather, so navigating all those differences was a bit difficult, but it wasn't by any means abnormal. It's a very normal thing to go through that, especially in the first month of marriage. Um, and I was over in the Philippines for 3 months, and the whole experience, just in general, was great. I've been to the Philippines before, but um, I hadn't stayed for 3 months. And this time it was really great. God was able to provide for us the entire time that we were over there. We had a lot of fun. We got to connect with a lot of really great people and other couples. And the people over there are just amazing. They're just really awesome people. And so many Christians, I feel like they don't really know what it feels like to meet other Christians in other countries. And it's really such a fun and interesting thing when you meet other Christians that are from another country, because it gives you an opportunity to really see the world the way that they see it, and it gives you an opportunity to learn things that you didn't learn before. So it was great being able to, over those 3 months, adjust to each other and get used to each other. And my wife and I, we have consistently, in the first 4 months of our marriage, we have, even with our distance, we have made sure to read the Bible together, to have devotionals together, to pray together. And that has been paramount in our relationship. It was both extremely important to us from the beginning that we have a God-centered relationship, and that's still the case. And it always makes things all the better, because ultimately, rather than us expecting the other person, like maybe a lot of secular couples, to, you know, fill all the gaps in their life, so to speak, we rely on God to fill all of those gaps, you know, and because we both are looking towards God, we are able to love each other, to an amazing extent and forgive each other to an amazing extent because we know that God has already forgiven us, so we're able to forgive each other in such a easy way. Neither of us are resentful people. Neither of us are, you know, we don't hold grudges. So we obviously both have our, you know, flaws and stuff, but overall, the experience has just been special. It's been really good. And these are just kind of like my raw thoughts. I would really I would really encourage other young men to, when they get married, just make sure that you're marrying somebody who truly loves God, because you have no idea how unbelievably difficult things would be if you didn't have God in your life. I think about that all the time. I think about other married couples who they don't have the relationship that my wife and I do. And I just have so much sympathy. There's a certain level of sympathy that I know that I had before for couples like that, but I experience it more closely now than before, because when I see couples that argue and they don't have that relationship with God, you see how much pain they can be in. And it's a really hard thing and a sad thing to see. So yeah, I'm just glad and grateful that I could marry my best friend, who I love very much. And God willing, I'll be able to continue to provide for her and be able to give her everything that she needs. So, and I know that I can trust God to provide for the two of us and give us everything that we need. So, yeah, I think that overall everything has been good. And in the first 4 months, I know I'm going to be looking back on this video years from now, and I know that things will change, but in the first 4 months, I feel like I've grown closer to her every single day. It's so strange. Like, you really know you love someone when you just can't imagine your life without them. And some days I just find myself so anxious, thinking, well, what if, she isn't around someday? What if she dies? What if I die? And she needs me, and it's like, it can really cause a tremendous amount of anxiety. So yeah, I often ask God to just give me peace of mind, so I don't think about all those things that are going to make me anxious and worried, because those are things that generally I don't think that way, in terms of always dwelling on the bad things that could happen to the person I'm in a relationship with. But I love her so much that that's often where my mind goes. I don't want anything bad to happen to her. So yeah, that's often something that I experience. And yeah, I just feel like I just fall deeper and deeper in love with her each day. And my hope is that just continues. And without looking too far ahead, I think it's important to take every day at a time. I try not to think too much about the future. I try not to think too much, like plan too far ahead, because I really do believe it's important to. I think a lot about Proverbs, about how, allowing God to establish your steps, establish your path. And I don't think it's good to ever plan too far ahead, but it's also good to have a goal and try to reach that goal. So it's definitely been tough being without her now that I'm back in the US. It's really sad, because I miss having my companion. I miss being in the same room with her. I miss us being able to just, we don't even have to say anything, just being in the same space as one another. And we can't do that now, which is tough. So, yeah, it's just hard. So, but the thing that we keep telling ourselves is it's only temporary, which is true. It's only temporary. And time does go by fast. And, before you know it, she'll be here. So that's what I keep telling myself. And, yeah, marriage is not easy. It's something, and I knew that going into it. I knew it wasn't easy. Um, and I knew I'd have to put the work in, and that's true. I've had to do that. I've had to make time so we can spend time together, and the thing you realize when you're married is it's you have to be intentional with the things that you do, and you have to be intentional about making time. You have to be intentional about, giving gifts and reminding that person that you care about them and you miss them and you love them, and it's important to remind each other of that. Now, obviously, people's love languages are different, but in general, I would say it's very good for the wife to comfort her husband, and it's good for the husband to comfort his wife and let each other know that you're there for one another. And that helps. It goes a long way. What else? Patience is important. Don't expect your spouse to make any drastic changes. Sometimes if you want something to change, it's going to be a slow process. And I don't mean change like their personality. I mean something like change a habit or something like that, like a small habit. It's important to be patient. It's important to be. One of my biggest faults is I'm truthful, but I can be overly harsh with my truthfulness. So one of the things that I've been working on is being gentle, improving on my gentleness, trying to say things in a more gentle and kind way. And yeah, so that's really been important for me. Yeah, and the best part about the relationship between my wife and I is that we're not only like it's a God-centered relationship, but we are truthful with one another. We are honest with one another. And you can't have a good relationship if you're not truthful with one another. So that'd be another thing that I would say. So, yeah, I'm very curious, for anybody who is married or single. I guess the question I would ask is, if you're married, what is some advice that you would give your younger self? And if you are single, what are your hopes for the future? Because the truth is that, it's not about asking God for the right person. It's about becoming the right person. So what are your plans for the future? What kind of man or woman do you want to become in the future so you can attract the person that you want? That'd be a good question to ask yourself. What kind of person do you want to be? What kind of habits do you want to establish? I would certainly recommend that, get into the habit of, if you're a man, get into the habit of reading scripture and being a leader, somebody who is able to lead their spouse. And if you're a woman, I would say, be prepared to take on a supporting role. It is not easy supporting a husband, and it's not easy being able to trust your husband. But choose your man well, and once you've chosen that person, support him, comfort him, in all the difficult things that he's going through. So, yeah, it's it's one of those things where it's like, I know that now that I'm married, I'm going to read many parts from the Bible in different ways. There's nothing really that comes to my mind, but I'll tell you something that kind of comes to my mind. So, a while ago, when I was in the Philippines, they asked me to lead a small group at one point, and the subject was, it was for married couples, and so I decided to talk about Ahab and Jezebel. And here's the point that I was making by talking about Ahab and Jezebel, is they were not a good couple from Scripture, but we can still learn from their bad example. You see, the thing with Ahab and Jezebel is they supported one another. They were very supportive of one another, but very supportive in their sin. And that's the difference, is you have to ask yourself, like, in your relationship, when you're supporting your spouse, are you supporting them to engage in sin? Are you supporting them engaging in bad things? Because you shouldn't. You should have a God-centered relationship and not allow your spouse to engage in those things. So, yeah, and talk about those things. Be honest with each other, and don't be overly harsh with one another either. So, yeah, you can learn from the example of someone like Ahab and Jezebel, and you can see how the things that they did, they continually cheered each other on, but for the wrong things. How much more should we cheer each other on in the good things? And that's what we really should be doing. We should be cheering each other on in the good things. And yeah, it's such a tough thing. It's very tough, but you know, hopefully this information that I've given has been helpful or useful in some way to somebody who might be listening. The first 4 months have not been easy. We've certainly had our arguments. It's like you hear all the time about couples that never fight or never argue, from some people who have been married for like 50 years, and you think to yourself, how is that possible? I know a lot of people who've been married for 50 years and they've had plenty of arguments, but they love each other fiercely. And those are the people that I relate to so much more, because it seems more attainable, more normal. Arguments are normal, but what's not normal is hating your spouse. What's not normal is holding a grudge. Love keeps no record of wrongs, it says in 1 Corinthians 13. So yeah, so it's very important that you're continually looking to Christ to be the center of your relationship, and have that kind of love and forgiveness for one another. So yeah, those are my general thoughts. Everything has been good so far. We recently celebrated not 2 years of being married, because we just got married, but 2 years of being in a relationship together, and that was really great. So yeah, I'm very happy and very proud of the relationship that we have now, and I know as we get older and the responsibilities that we take on, and even when we have kids someday, if we have kids someday, I know it will be increasingly more difficult to make time for the things that are important. But I hope that if my future self is watching this, that I can remind him right now that you need to make time. You need to make time for the things that are most important, which is connecting with each other on reading the Bible together, communicating with each other on a regular basis, making sure that you're being a good man by leading and also be a servant. So, yeah, I think that it's so important for women, obviously, need to follow the example of Christ, but men, especially, as the leader of the home, need to follow the example of Christ. Um, so, yeah, he's a great role model to look towards. So, yeah, that's kind of where we're at right now. Everything is good so far, and so far God has been blessing us tremendously. Although things aren't easy, like money is tight, things are, hard, but they're not impossible, and things are still good. Things are still wonderful and beautiful. So it's important to look at the positives and not the negatives all the time. So, anyway, those are just my general thoughts. I hope this has been helpful or useful. And yeah, I hope you all take care. I'll talk to you guys later.